Hello everyone. So today is World Meditation Day, and it also happens to be my birthday. So I'm going to talk about meditation. So I'm going to talk about sort of two aspects of practice of meditation. One is the objective domain, and another is the subjective domain. So first, I'm going to start with the boring one to the general public. Well, by the way, my research work is focused on meditation, so everything is aligned up today. So, well, so I'm going to talk about objective domain and then I'll talk about how subjectively it changes your experience. So, first, let's come to what meditation does to your body and brain over the years if you happen to practice some style of meditation. Although there are now like thousands of styles of meditation, so of course, the answer would depend on what practice do you do. But there seems to be sort of an underlying similarity in all the practices, which is sort of attaining this state of effortless attention, right? It's called dhyana in Patanjali's terminology. Now, okay, coming to what meditation does to your body and brain. So one common observation that people have reported is that it reduces the activity in your neurons that are part of what they call default mode network. These are sort of the collection of few areas in the brain, like uh, prefrontal cortex and cingulate cortex, inferior parietal lobule, and so on and so forth. So a bunch of regions in the sort of midline of the brain. These regions are associated with things like mind wandering and self-referential processing when you're thinking about yourself. And if you practice meditation for years, or sometimes maybe just for a few minutes, the activity in these areas go down. So the neurons are not really that active in these areas. So the one interpretation of that is that your mind is not really wandering that often, or you are not thinking about yourself incessantly, which happens to a lot of people. So you're kind of the default state of most people is that they are thinking without being aware that they are thinking, or they are just lost in thought. They're either worried about what's going to happen tomorrow, or they regret what they did last week, and so on. Uh, so that is one observation. The default mode network area in the brain is basically sort of deactivated or quiet. Those neurons are not making, they are not having that much activity. That is one observation. Another is that gamma oscillations of meditators happen to be powerful, more powerful than the controls of the same age and gender, and so on. I think I should give the reference to these observations in the description box. So I'll do that. Yeah, so well, gamma oscillations are associated with things like attention, working memory, and higher cognitive functions. So, one kind of interpretation you can have is that probably meditators have higher levels of attention, um, which also sorts of aligns with the subjective reports of people. They can be attentive effortlessly. And one kind of another observation that we recently, or the analysis that we did, it basically suggests that the meditation over it's not a long term effect. It's just the effect of practice in the moment. So when you are meditating, the functional connectivity of your brain in the beta or slow gamma range reduces compared to the controls of the same age and gender and whatnot. So somehow the gamma oscillations are more powerful, and slow gamma connectivity is suppressed in meditators. Another observation people made is some people report that the practice of meditation is associated with decreased baseline blood pressure and even lower respiration rate or breathing rate, which might just be sort of part of the practice of part of the practice of many styles of meditation, that you sort of start with paying attention to the breath, and so that might be just confounded there. But yeah, it has been on average observed that meditators actually have lower breathing rate. And there are also some changes reported in the heart rate variability, but I'm not currently I don't have that data. Uh, well, now okay, so these are a few changes that meditation does to your physiology or brain. One thing which is pretty intuitive to understand is the default mode network activity suppressed. There is, although there are debates about it, some people, there are conflicting studies as to what default mode network deactivation means, right? But when you actually look at the subjective reports of people who have been practicing meditation, many of these studies by neuroscientists are, many of them have been done on primarily sort of mindfulness, which is sort of modified version of vipassana, some aspect of vipassana, and transcendental meditation (TM). These for some reason got popular in the West, I guess. So yeah, there are caveats and all, but these are a few observations. Coming back to subjective domain of what meditation does to your experience, well, I'm it's not a first I'm going to be objective about subjective experiences now, because I haven't really been practicing meditation consistently. On and off I practice this and that, but people certainly report reduced level of stress and anxiety. In fact, there is an entire long Wikipedia page on MBSR, mindfulness based stress reduction. And yeah, one sort of common experience of people is that they are not really worried about the future that much, or they don't regret the past that much. So they are not really, they are kind of available in the present moment more often, which is sounds like a good thing. It certainly so it should increase your productivity as well, because you are more available in the present moment, right? And but today one interesting thing happened. I happened to attend sort of a talk by these sort of meditators or people who are associated with the Brahma Kumaris, came for an event in my university. And these two ladies, and one of these ladies was really sort of almost beaming with light, and all the time smile and high energy. And she was it was just fascinating to see her and listen to her talk about about the practice that they do, and why sort of their way of life, which includes meditation practice, which is called Raja Yoga meditation, can do wonders. And she has a lot of faith in it now, so to speak, quote unquote faith. Although she reportedly she says that she was also kind of skeptical, and she was not really religious, or she didn't believe things on face value. But when she experienced it for the first time, it was kind of profound, and she became really interested in it, and almost started following it religiously. So this practice sort of relies on sort of in some belief or faith on the supreme soul, or your godly father, or the god, so to speak. And it's really interesting that belief in that sort of description, I think, is in some sense sort of essential to basically have the effect that they had. That's my understanding, because I come from a sort of a different background, where I'm kind of more skeptical, and it's very difficult for me to start basically anything which requires some faith or some belief in the supernatural, or a universal energy, or god, or anything like that. And apparently Raja Yoga meditation requires something of that sort. I think the only tradition which doesn't require that is Vipassana, or Buddhist styles of meditation, other Buddhist styles of meditation. And that's why I think it has become so popular in the neuroscience community, and even in the US and Europe, I guess. Kind of almost perfectly made secular, without any religious frills, that you can practice it even if you're totally skeptic about it. It's more like an experiment on yourself. So you're kind of turning attention upon itself. You're just watching closely what happens in the present moment. That's the so-called mindfulness, or at least that is my understanding of it. Now I don't think I would I happened to ask her that question sincerely, that why is it that I find it so difficult? So, and particularly sticking to things, right? I keep changing from, I am kind of doing spiritual shopping. I try this meditation practice and that practice, and never really sticking to any one practice. And she basically says that, she said that you have to experience it, really. So, there is no, really, there's no other way. So if you have to assume, of course, another interesting point that she made, like even in mathematics, you assume, let x be this, and sometimes we assume for certain things, to prove or disprove something. So, and I actually have more than good reasons to assume that, okay, maybe there is something like that, because we see, actually, we have worked on the data collected from this particular group, and we actually see that there is some long-term effect of meditation, and even the state effect, the in the moment effect of meditation. So yeah, so maybe I should really give it a nice, not nice, sincere try. And so couple of things that she pointed out. It was really fascinating to listen to her. She said that all of you guys should start doing these 4 or 5 things. Sort of wake up and start your day with positive thoughts, like I am a happy soul, or I'm a happy person. If you don't believe in soul, I guess that should also work. And I'm happy, and I'll be doing positive things, and I'm I am gonna be successful, and all those sort of positive psychology things. And then you do meditation. Some guided sessions should be available on YouTube, etc. And every hour you try to give 1 minute to this sort of realization that I am more powerful than the situation, right. The real power is here, because this power is coming from the ocean of power, the supreme soul, in their language. And in the evening you reflect, or maybe you write it down, like what could happen today, or and then you of course thank the supreme energy, because it's actually through that you're doing it. And even if the mistakes that you have done, mention those, and they will actually give you power to correct them, and do more good in the world. And then meditate and sleep with this positive energy. So you imagine yourself to be receiving those positive qualities, and be in that state where you are happy, you are a peaceful person, and through your energy, even the environment is getting positive vibrations, quote unquote. So all of these things are difficult for me to believe, things like vibrations and matching the frequency, or supreme soul, or all these concepts, which are really difficult to believe in once you kind of have once you I guess if you are in science, becomes a little difficult. But when I really look at it from another sort of psychology neuroscience perspective, is that maybe you need to fool yourself to get certain results, right? So and it's certainly, so we have observed changes in the brains of these people, right? Their gamma oscillations are more powerful, their functional connectivity in beta to slow gamma range is reduced. So so certainly this practice is doing something, although as per skeptic people, their belief might be just mistaken, right? There is no supreme, there might be no supreme god, there might be no vibrations, communicating from me to you. But uh, d- so I think, irrespective of your, whether your beliefs are beliefs, they don't have to be, they're not always, they don't always map onto the reality perfectly. And some of the fake beliefs, let's say, they are unreal or not true, even they should have some impact on your brains, which can be positive, right? So even faith in god, irrespective of whether god exists or not, let's say god doesn't exist, faith in god can lead to certain changes which are good for your mental health. At a deeper level, maybe you just can't reverse it, right? So maybe I lost my fourth faith, and maybe I will never able to get it back. And Even again, so that will open my possibilities for certain other things, and close my possibilities for a few things. I'm really going at a deeper philosophical level here, um but yeah, so in some sense, only a few things are available to you, given your background and your neural connections and whatnot. And of course it depends on your environment as much as it depends on your genetics. uh, but even at an even deeper level, if there is no free will, things are just evolving as per the laws of physics, which we don't fully understand. But we believe that there are these laws of nature which according to which the things are evolving in time. Then basically things are just happening. There is no you, there's not really a free will. So whether I believe in something or not believe in something was again seems to be either predetermined 100%, or there is some randomness at maybe quantum level, which has nothing to do with uh, what I what I wish or what I will. So yeah. But for, again, it's interesting. So I think one thing, somewhere I heard that in a way you can't change anything, right? Then everything is either random or fully determined. But just you are just aware of these things, right? Because this is just happening in the field of consciousness. But just being aware of awareness kind of changes something, um, which is a really interesting idea. So even Anaka Harris writes about it in her book. And some spiritual teachers also sort of hint somewhat in that direction, as to when something changes when you become aware of the awareness itself. And we don't really understand this at a scientific level, but at a subjective level, I think there is hope. So even this is another just experiment, right? You don't have to always experiment with devices and temperature meters and electrodes that measure your neural activity, or something that measures the change in your proteins or DNA patterns. It can be just attention and experience itself. In the present moment you are having an experience, just pay close attention to it. That's, I think, the Vipassana project, or the mindfulness experiment. And if you do this experiment long enough or even short enough, maybe you will discover some truths. So that's the spirit in which sort of I look at the practice of meditation, that it's an experiment. And it has been a little difficult to keep doing that experiment, although I'm sort of more motivated now to practice it. Anyway, my scientific or whatever nonsense is over now. And happy World Meditation Day. Take care. See you in the next video. Bye.